Alright, so Percy Jackson, Season 1, Episode 3. So, they finally begin their quest. So first, Percy, um, Percy goes to visit the Oracle, and the Oracle looks like that old-timey fortune teller machine where you would put in a quarter and it would tell you your future or whatever. Or as Percy said, like a Halloween decoration. Now, she doesn't actually speak. She uses magic, and of course she conjures up an image of his stepfather. Why she couldn't have conjured up, I don't know, an image of his mother or literally anything. Not an image of his stepfather. In the words of Percy, you've got to be kidding me. So she tells him about the quest. He leaves, and then we have the ceremony of him choosing who he would take with him. And which I found interesting because Chiron promised Annabeth that when it came time to do the quest, that she would be picked. So why go through all of this? So he immediately picks Annabeth, and his reasoning is beautiful. If she has to do if the success of the quest would be decided by her pushing Percy down some stairs, she wouldn't hesitate. Which I just found adorably funny. So we then cut to, Chiron's like, usually we at least say a couple names before you start picking. It's like he knows these people already. It's not like he's never met them. So then he goes to visit Grover, who is shoveling shit. He's shoveling poop. And horses poop. And he's talking to the horse, and obviously he can understand what the horse is saying. Because of course he can. And so Percy comes up to him and says that, he chose Grover to be one of his quest mates. And of course Grover doesn't believe him. It's like, no, I chose you. And he's like, why? And then you see a image of the Oracle saying that he's going to be betrayed. So obviously he already thinks it's going to be Grover because of what happened with his mother, I guess. He doesn't trust Grover from the get-go. And I thought the reasoning he did give Grover, and the reasoning he gave Luke when Luke meets up with him, is that, his mother basically made Grover swear that he would take care of Percy. So they get ready to leave, and Annabeth immediately takes charge. And Percy's like, wait, what? Who put you in charge? So she goes to the tree where Thalia was transformed by Zeus into a tree to save her from the Furies that were chasing her, Luke, and Annabeth. And Percy asks the question that anybody who's read any Greek mythology would ask. Why did they do that? If they're that powerful, why did they transform someone into, a tree? I mean, when they want to punish the person, like in the tale of Narcissus, okay, that makes sense. But when you're trying to save someone's life, you turn them into a tree and leave them there. I mean, turn them into a tree until the fury leaves and then turn her back or something. Don't just leave her there. That is just bizarre. But anyway, obviously Annabeth still feels bad that Talia is a tree now. So they go off on their quest, and they end up going by bus. And Percy's like, why can't we just go in the air, use an airplane? And Grover explains that because the sky is Zeus's domain and you're a forbidden child, we would just be serving you up on a silver platter for Zeus to take you out. Which makes perfect sense. I mean, I initially wondered the same thing. Why are they taking trains and buses and taxis when they could just fly to LA? But that makes perfect sense. So they stop at a rest stop, at a gas station, and Annabeth decides that she's going to go and get chips and soda. And Grover starts singing a song to try to calm the passions, because both Annabeth and Percy are at each other's throats already. And I initially was like, oh wait, he's got a nice voice. He can actually sing. Okay. Even though it's meant for comedy, the kid can sing. Okay. That there's that. So, Annabeth goes to the gas station, and she doesn't just get chips. It looks like she gets a bunch of granola bars, and it looks like she got a whole bunch of stuff. And I'm just like, how much money were you given? Because, you bought a lot of snacks, and convenience stores are actually pretty pricey. So, anyway, so she senses something is wrong. And at the time, you hear a voiceover of Grover explaining to Percy about sensing monsters. So, obviously, Annabeth is sensing something. So she goes back to the bus, and before she gets to the guys, she puts on her invisibility hat, her invisibility cap, and sits down next to Alecto, aka Mrs. Dobbs. And we find out from Grover that they were just gaslighting Percy in the first episode, because, I don't know, maybe people were within earshot and they could hear, or I don't know what other reason they could have for telling Percy that someone who very much exists doesn't exist, and make him out to be super crazy. So she sits down next to Alecto, and apparently everybody can sense a person under the hat, even though they're supposed to be invisible, which makes me wonder, what is the point of becoming invisible if people can sense you? So she starts talking to Alecto, trying to find out what's going on and why they're following. And she said, just give me the child of Poseidon, and, everything will be good. But she doesn't exactly say why. Now, in the first episode, when she was attacking Percy, she did call him a thief. Or was it the second episode? Maybe it was the second episode. She did call him a thief. So we know that not only does Zeus think he stole something, but now Hades does too. And I'm just thinking, you're both gods. How do you not know? Even if you don't know who stole something, how can you think that this kid, who literally just found out he's a demigod, why do you think he stole anything from you? I mean, at least if you're going to go for a demigod, at least how about one of the kids who are already in Camp Half-Blood, who are aware of their identity and accept it? At this point, Percy didn't even know he was a demigod. He didn't understand what was happening to him. How could he steal anything from you? But anyway. So Annabeth is talking, and then she leaves, goes to the back of the bus, and tells them to break open the back window because they have to leave. Now, this was a twofold reason. Number one, so they could easily escape, and because that was broken, everybody else would have to leave the bus. So the Furies would be stuck, not being able to follow the kids. So they set off, and as Percy pointed out, they're in New Jersey and there's a forest. How is there a forest in New Jersey? And that is a question I have too. So they're walking down a path, and apparently, according to Grover, it's a satyr path. So they're walking, and Percy's like, why don't we just call camp? And they explain that that's basically admitting defeat if they call and say they need help. So no, they're not going to do that. And Percy's like, you know what? I'm fine with that. And so Annabeth asks him, why are you afraid of who you are? And I have to admit, it probably has to do with, at 1 minute, Percy's being bullied, and suddenly he's finding out that he's this badass demigod. So it's not so much that he's afraid of who he is. I don't think he just, he's still processing how to be who he's supposed to be. Maybe that manifests as fear. I mean, he doesn't want anything to do with this. So maybe he is afraid. But it's also because he isn't comfortable in his power yet. So, and I'm assuming that by the end of this quest, he will be. Or maybe even by the end of this episode. So, they keep walking, and so Annabeth and Percy are about to go to blows again. They're arguing. Grover is trying to stop them, and we find out that Grover was supposed to be the protector for Luke, Annabeth, and Thalia, which I'm sure makes Percy feel so secure knowing that someone basically was killed on his watch. Because now, granted, it was Zeus who intervened and turned her into a tree, but it was to save her, which means that Grover failed. So that can't make you feel very good, thinking that the person who's supposed to protect you is so unimaginably bad at it. So Grover then suddenly smells burgers. So he's he's walking down the path, and then we see M's Garden Emporium. And you see a bunch of statues, and immediately Annabeth figures out what M stands for, Medusa. And the Fury follows them, but before the Fury can do anything, Medusa comes out and threatens the Fury. Now, everybody at this point is covering their faces because nobody wants to see her in all her glory. Now, as they're hiding their faces, Medusa goes on about how I hate bullies and how I'm not as bad as you think, I'm not a monster, even though Annabeth thinks that she is. And she and Grover are unsure as to whether to trust her, but Percy's like, Mom's told me her story, so I'm gonna go. I just feel like I can trust her. Now, based on what we find out later, it's probably a skewed version of her story because Poseidon was the one who drew her away from Athena, which pissed off Athena. So, of course, Poseidon's version would be slightly different than what Annabeth knows as her story. So, because Annabeth even said, you're lying. So, they're all having this feast, but taking great pains not to look at Medusa, even though Medusa is wearing a hat, so in theory, she shouldn't be turning them into stone willy-nilly. And Annabeth and her are obviously at loggerheads. Annabeth does not like her at all. And at first she was being kind and saying how, oh, my problem is with your mother, not with you. You know, it's fine. But then she finds out that Annabeth is very much on her mother's side. Even though she was trying to tell everybody that she was a pious, she loved Athena, and Athena turned on her because Poseidon actually showed her affection as opposed to Athena, who was cold to her. So, she decides to go into the kitchen because something's burning and asks Percy for his help. So Percy goes, and she tells him that she can, first off, she asks about his mother, which I'm pretty sure, since she knows that Percy is Poseidon's son, I'm pretty sure she knows by now about the Minotaur, and she knows about his mother being in it with Hades. So, so she says that, you can't trust either Grover or Annabeth because when push comes to shove, they'll follow the quest rather than help him free his mother. And that she could help him by getting rid of those two because they're just gonna turn on him. So this is the second time someone's mentioned that someone's gonna betray Percy. And so she offers to help, and instead of Percy saying, nah, I'll just be wary of them, I'll pay attention, I can take care of myself, blah, 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 he just takes off, and she turns around, and there's no Percy. I don't know. It might have helped if he just said no thank you or something. I mean, she might have still taken matters into her own hands regardless. But, you know, to just run off. Now, I understand he's 12. So, obviously, he's already creeped out and probably wants to get the hell out of there. Which, by the way, why did they not run out back outside and run back where they came, or keep running down the street or something? But no, they go into her basement because nothing bad ever happens when you do that. I mean, she's basically a serial killer. Come on, guys. Why are you running into her basement? So they get down there, and of course there's statues everywhere. And so they're walking through, and Grover runs into Uncle Ferdinand, who he was talking about earlier to try to get to lower the pressure, because to lower the heat, because Annabeth and Percy were fighting. So, of course Grover's upset, and Percy gives his condolences because Percy's a decent human being. And as this is happening, they hear Medusa. So they all hide. Percy decides, I think it's Percy, someone figured out that if they all go their separate ways, she can't follow. Well, at some point, Grover was wearing the flying sneakers. So he said Maya, and the wings show up and carry him away, but he doesn't know how to stop it. I don't know. Didn't Percy mention that it's both Maya to bring the wings out and to make them go away? I realize it was for comedy purposes, but still. Anyway, so Annabeth and Percy are like, okay, we need a new plan. And so they hide in separate places. And Percy brings out his sword. And Medusa is talking to Percy, again trying to appeal to the fact that he wants his mother back and all that. So, and so yeah, mothers are the theme, because the same thing was with Annabeth. Percy even asked Annabeth to call her mom, and then chided her for, oh, when was the last time you spoke to your mom? And dude, your father never spoke to you ever in your life. Why are you chiding her? But anyway, so she's trying to talk to Percy. Percy wants to cut her with the sword, knock her out with the sword, but he also has to close his eyes because, well, Medusa. So Annabeth comes from behind and puts her invisibility cap on Medusa, so giving Percy ample time to swing like in T-ball and knock her and decapitate her, behead her. And so then, now this is interesting. Not only did her head still stay invisible, I don't believe they showed a body. Now, maybe it's because it's Disney Plus and, it's not for mature audiences, so it's not something where you want to see a headless body. But you would think that because the head was severed from the body, that the body could be seen now. But, so they're like, okay, what are we going to do with the head? He grabs the head and goes with Annabeth and make sure that the head is facing the correct direction before you take off the cap. And again, how is it that people know where things are even if it's invisible? That kind of defeats the purpose of it being invisible. So, I guess if you're not paying attention, it works, but. So, he takes off the cap, and the Fury just turns into stone right then and there. So, no more Electo. So, we're a Fury down. We have 2 Furies to go. And, so they go back in and they're like, okay, what are we going to do with the head? Oh, let's bury it with the cap on, because that way, even if it's uncovered, nothing bad will happen because the head will be invisible. And Grover's like, no, we're nixing that idea because this is all Annabeth has of her mother, is that cap. So Percy comes up with another idea. He puts the head in a box, and he's going to ship it to Olympus using Hermes Express. And of course, Hermes would have a package moving thing going, because of course he would. So he is a messenger to the gods, so that checks out. So at first Grover and Annabeth are like, are you insane? They are going to hate us for this. And Percy's like, look, they might think of it as an offering or something. Because, they're giving the gods a monster's head. Okay, fine. So they do that, and this way he is able to remove the cap and give it back to Annabeth. Which Annabeth actually smiles at. She's quite happy that she got her cap back. And so they send it off on its way, and they continue on. And Hermes is seen himself looking like a FedEx driver, UPS driver, actually more UPS driver, and going up to the 600th floor. It really, really looked like it was like the Empire State Building or the Sears Tower, one of those elevators which has like a lot of floors to it. But not 600. So he goes up to 600, and it's Mount Olympus Drive. So they're really trying hard to make it sound, not otherworldly. And he walks out and says, you guys won't believe this. So he obviously knows what's in the box. So that's how it ends. And then we see snippets from next episode. We see another of the Furies. I believe it's the one that first got Annabeth's attention at the convenience store. I don't think we've seen the third one yet. So we've seen this. So the second one is going to be there. And we see in one clip Grover and Annabeth frantically putting water on Percy while he's squatting in a fountain. So I'm assuming that he's been injured, and, well, that's gonna heal him. We already know that water heals his injuries. So that's gonna be fun. So I assume they're gonna take out the second Fury next episode. I'm trying to think if there was any other cameo. I'm pretty sure we saw a cameo of someone else, but I'm blanking completely on who that would be. So anyway, I believe that's all I have for this video. And with that, I will see you guys in the next one.